The question is, how do you see yourself? When I ask myself that question, what usually happens is I end up kind of like putting the ball back in other people's court. When I say that, I mean I put the focus back on other people. Well, how do other people see me, right? The fascinating thing about this is that it's actually it's like if you ask, well, how do other people see me? Like if I ask, well, how do other people see me, right? Other people see me how I see me, right? People have always treated me how I see myself. People have always treated other people how those other people see themselves as well, right? But how a person sees themselves is what shapes their experience of life. It's the same thing as personality, right? Your personality creates your personal reality, right? And a personality consists of how a person thinks, feels, and acts, right? But that also goes into how a person sees themselves, right? If somebody doesn't see themselves with a high regard, nobody else is going to. And it's going to be mirrored, of course, because if somebody doesn't see themselves with a high regard, they're not going to have healthy boundaries, they're not going to have standards, they're not going to have criteria, right? They're not going to have any of that kind of stuff. They're just going to be kind of like floating, right? And so like when I look at it for myself and everything, how do I see myself? How does Chris see himself? And the cool thing about this is that I never really used to ask myself this question. But the more I ask myself this question now, the more I see that there's so much there that I didn't previously see, right? So I could answer that however I want to, and that's the magic here too, right? How I see myself previously used to be based around how others saw me, which of course is really codependency, right? How you see me is how I see me. How you feel about me is how I feel about me. However, ever since I have begun to take my energy, my focus and awareness back to myself and into my body and not really like tune so much into everyone else, right? I've actually become more aware of myself. What is me? What isn't me? This has to do with individuation and differentiation, right? The boundaries between self and other, right? It's important to be aware of how a person sees themselves in my own experiences because I'm responsible for that. Like, here's the wild thing. I would argue, at least, to an extent, I'm responsible for how other people treat me. Here's why I believe this. Think about it this way. To a very large extent, well, I mean, not just to a very large extent, pretty much entirely, right? A person treats me based on how I see myself, right? If I have healthy boundaries and high standards, people aren't going to treat me like shit, right? And of course, I mean, there are going to be those select few people that are just assholes, you know, right? But I can remove myself from the situation, right? And so, how I see myself, reality mirrors that to me in terms of how people treat me, right? And again, zero toleration for bullshit, right? If I experience something by somebody that I don't like, I just get myself out of that, that's all. No sweat, no anxiety, no worry, right? But what I've noticed is that in my own experiences, whenever it comes to me asking myself, well, how do I see myself? What usually happens is I focus externally rather than internally. And that is what I would argue to be a conditioning from codependency, right? Codependency really, I would seriously argue, I'm not trying to look at it as a good or a bad thing, but codependency really fucks a person up because it takes them outside of themselves, which is why when somebody would ask themselves, how do I see myself? Immediately they would go to, well, how do other people see me? Right? But the focus really is not on how other people see you. The focus is on how you see you, because how you see you is how other people see you. It's never been about how other people see you. It's always been about how you see you, because even if you've spent so much time focusing on how other people see you, it's always come back to how you see you, because you've had to look outside of yourself to other people to see you to see you. I feel like I just created like a tongue twister. But truly, like, it's never not been about how a person sees themselves. Because even the person who is codependent, who is like, okay, well, how do I see me? Well, how do other people see me? At some point, it was originated here, right? And then at some point, it was like, it's more comfortable to do this, so we're going to do this. We're going to tune into everyone else. How you see me is how I see me. How you feel about me is how I feel about me, right? So this was never gone. It just kind of like, it went out there and it went out there and it went out there. And it tuned into everyone else, right? But the real magic and the real creation happens when a person brings their focus, awareness, and energy back to themselves and into their body. And they become magical, right? Because then the focus is brought back on them, and then they can basically see themselves, right? Set boundaries, individuate, differentiate, know self, right? Know the self, and then learn about the other, right? And that's really what it's about. Now, it's important to really be grounded with how a person sees themselves. In my own experiences, here's why. The more you know about how you see yourself, the more you're kind of like main character vibes, right? Depending on how a person feels about themselves, right? If they have low self-esteem, they're going to approach themselves and other people in a very specific way, right? They're probably not going to have high standards for themselves. They're probably going to allow themselves to be walked all over. I've been there, loads of experience. If a person instead sees themselves with real high regard, right? They have high self-esteem. They know themselves. They have absolutely zero anxiety when it comes to setting and maintaining boundaries with people, right? The wild thing is, and this needs to be made very clear, because for a long time in life, I did not understand this. It doesn't matter who you are. What matters is how you see yourself. It doesn't matter how you've seen yourself. What matters is how you can see yourself. The past is irrelevant here. It really is. Because the way that life presents itself to people is the present moment. In this very moment right now, I am choosing to express myself as I am, and that is therefore creating a very specific experience, right? I can laugh. Haha. That was kind of strange, awkward as well, but that's okay, you know? It was a totally like artificial laugh, but and now it's presenting a real laugh, you know. But like I can do a little dance. Every moment of life is an opportunity to be reborn. That in and of itself is also a way that a person can see themselves, right? In every single moment, I choose to be reborn. I choose to be water and fluid. I can be however I want to. Yeah, the magic's right there. It's wild. How do I see myself? I see myself as someone who's flowing with the present moment of life and being reborn into the magic of that present moment. Yeah. And that's it. That's wild. And that really breaks me out of the mold that has been created through years and years of unconscious conditioning of Chris has to be that way. Chris has to be that way. Oh, everyone else, tell me what I do. Tell me who I am. Tell me how to be. Tell me how you see me. How do you all see me? Because I don't really know how to see me without you, because codependency and no. It's wild. It really is. And it's actually very challenging for a lot of people to take that power back, because it's almost as if it's like, okay, I got it. Oh my God, this is really powerful. What do I do with this? Oh my God, you take it back. It's too powerful. It's too empowering, and it gives me too much choice, and that scares the shit out of me. And look at that. How do you see yourself? How do I see myself? When you ask that question, when I ask that question, let's ask that question, right? And as we ask that question, let's bring the focus, awareness, and energy back to ourselves and into our body. And watch life get magical. Yeah.